What's in a language? Now, we have been talking about bilingualism. We have been talking about trilingualism, multilingualism, and we have also touched upon the issue of who is a bilingual. In all these lingualism terms, the basic construct has been that of a language. Now, what remains to be defined is, what is a language? What do we mean when we say language? And how can we possibly define it? Now, you might think that, of course, language is language, and there is no issue about understanding what language is. Language is what we speak. Language is through how we communicate verbally. However, in research and in academia, language or defining language is quite problematic, as you will see. So, how do you define language? Language is a rule-governed system. Is that so? So, if that is the case, as Chomsky would say, then that would mean that language is actually a systematic combination of different items like phonemes, sound systems, lexes, words, which are put together in syntactical structures, grammar-related rules. Following grammar-related rules, they are put into sentences. So this is what a language is. The problem is that this is a very narrow description of a language and the sort of language that we intend to talk about when we are talking about bilingualism. The reason is that it is just too abstract and it seems to be divorced from the realities of the society or within which it works. For instance, if we say, and if I ask you, what is English? So, you would say English, of course, is a language that is spoken in England. And if you say that, then the question again comes, what is the language that other people speak, like Australians and Americans, and within English also? There is Cockney and there is a standard English. So what English is English? So what about the differences in the way language is spoken? For instance, what about that the same English language is spoken differently by Afro-Americans, and this actually is a sign of their identity, and it is spoken differently by academia. What about that the same language is spoken differently or it has sort of different rules that govern it when it is used in media or when it is used in medicine? What about the different registers? So what language or which language are we talking about over here? The thing is that the problem is resolved if we see language as a social phenomenon. So this reminds us of our previous discussion about language and function. That is, we feel the need to perform certain functions within a society, and to perform those functions, the language somehow develops around us and changes as we use it. So language as a social phenomenon would mean that this would be defined in terms of people, like we already said, Australian English or Yorkshire English or Cockney, or so it is not just something which is just out there, but it is there within society, entrenched and embedded in our everyday life, and depending on the context within which it is operating, depending on the age of the people, the gender of the people, the race of the people, the place of origin, the language will be different. And this is how it needs to be studied. So language, a social phenomena, will always have various manifestations because life or social life has various manifestations as well. And then if we talk about manifestations, how do we differentiate between language and dialect? So you might say this is the language and this is a dialect of that language. So a specific language, for instance, you might like to say is a dialect of Urdu and not Urdu itself. To give you a very quick example, so what would you say is Urdu? वो लड़की इधर आई, या you use a kind of a sort of a sentence in which you say chokri idhar aa. So which one of these is the correct language, and how do you decide that? This is what we will study in the coming modules.